The Enduring Power of Journaling, Historical Evolution, Clinical Evidence, Best Practices, and Modern Applications. A comprehensive thesis on the importance and practice of therapeutic writing in Academic Review, Department of Psychology and Behavioral Sciences, May 2026. Table of Contents 1. Introduction 2. Historical Evolution of Journaling 2.1 Ancient Origins 2.2 Medieval and Renaissance Periods 2.3 Famous Historical Diaries 2.4 The Rise of Therapeutic Writing 3. Clinical Findings and Therapeutic Importance 3.1 The Pennebaker Paradigm and Foundational Research 3.2 Meta-Analytic Evidence 3.3 Mechanisms of Action 3.4 Applications for Specific Conditions 4. Common Patterns, Tactics, and Techniques 5. Fads and Popular Systems Through History 5.1 The Bullet Journal Method 5.2 The Artist's Way and Morning Pages 5.3 Other Notable Systems 6. What is the best method? Evidence-based recommendation 7. The commercial market for journaling 8. Teaching journaling 9. Conclusion and future directions. References. Abstract. This thesis examines the enduring significance of journaling as a tool for self-understanding, mental health, and personal growth. Tracing its evolution from ancient Mesopotamian record-keeping to contemporary AI-assisted digital platforms, the paper synthesizes historical, philosophical, and clinical perspectives to demonstrate why reflective writing remains one of the most accessible and effective instruments for human flourishing. The review synthesizes findings from over 3 decades of empirical research, including seminal work by James Pennebaker and subsequent meta-analyses, alongside practical examinations of journaling methodologies, commercial market dynamics, and pedagogical approaches. Key findings indicate that expressive writing produces statistically significant benefits for physical and psychological health outcomes, with effect sizes comparable to other psychological interventions. The paper concludes with evidence-based recommendations for practitioners and identifies emerging frontiers in digital and AI-assisted journaling. Keywords: journaling, expressive writing, therapeutic writing, mental health, self-reflection, Pennebaker paradigm, bullet journal, morning pages. 1. Introduction 1. Introduction. Journaling, broadly defined as the regular practice of recording one's thoughts, experiences, emotions, and reflections in written form, represents one of humanity's most enduring and universal practices. Whether scratched into clay tablets in ancient Mesopotamia, inscribed on papyrus by Roman emperors, penned in leather-bound diaries by Enlightenment scholars, or typed into password-protected applications on modern smartphones, the act of preserving one's inner life on the page has transcended every era, culture, and technological revolution. Its persistence across millennia suggests something fundamental about the human need to document, process, and make meaning of our existence. The forms that journaling takes are remarkably diverse. At its most basic, a journal serves as a chronological record of daily events, a diary in the traditional sense. Yet journaling frequently extends far beyond mere documentation. Reflective journaling delves into the meaning and significance of experiences, exploring emotions, values, and personal growth. Gratitude journaling systematically cultivates appreciation. Stream of consciousness writing bypasses the internal censor to access deeper layers of thought and feeling. Therapeutic journaling, often conducted under clinical guidance, processes trauma, anxiety, and depression. Productivity-oriented systems like the bullet journal organize tasks and goals. Each of these forms, while distinct in purpose and method, shares the common thread of using written language as a mirror for the self. The thesis of this paper is that journaling remains one of the most powerful, accessible, and versatile tools available for self-understanding, mental health maintenance, and personal development. Unlike many interventions that require specialized training, financial resources, or professional facilitation, journaling demands only the most basic materials, a pen and paper, or a digital equivalent, and the willingness to engage honestly with one's own experience. This accessibility, combined with a robust and growing body of empirical evidence supporting its efficacy, positions journaling as a uniquely democratic practice with the potential to benefit individuals across the lifespan and across diverse cultural and socioeconomic contexts. Yet journaling is not a panacea, and this paper also examines its limitations, contraindications, and the conditions under which professional therapeutic support may be necessary. Through a comprehensive exploration of its history, clinical foundations, methodological diversity, commercial. 2. Historical evolution of journaling dimensions, and pedagogical applications. This thesis aims to provide a thorough and balanced understanding of why the simple act of writing about one's life continues to hold such profound power. 2. Historical evolution of journaling. 2.1 Ancient origins. The earliest antecedents of journaling emerged not from literary or philosophical ambition but from the practical necessities of ancient civilizations. Around 3400 to 3100 BCE, Mesopotamian scribes pressed reed styluses into wet clay tablets to record inventories of grain, livestock, and trade goods, a form of proto-writing known as cuneiform. 8. Yet even these utilitarian records occasionally contained personal asides, complaints about the quality of beer rations, notes on favorable trade deals, or observations about daily life. These marginalia represent the first stirrings of self-expression within written records, suggesting that the urge to document one's subjective experience is nearly as old as writing itself. One of the most remarkable early journals discovered by archaeologists belonged to a man named Mirror, who lived around 2570 BCE. His papyrus journal documents the transportation of limestone blocks down the Nile River for the construction of the Great Pyramid of Khufu at Giza. 8. While primarily a logistical record, Mirror's journal offers an intimate glimpse into the organizational complexity of one of humanity's most ambitious engineering projects and stands as a testament to the enduring human impulse to bear witness to extraordinary endeavors. The transition from record-keeping to reflective writing reached a pivotal moment in the ancient world with the emergence of philosophical journals. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who reigned from 161 to 180 CE, composed his Meditations, a series of personal writings addressed, as their Greek title ta eis huton indicates, to himself. 8. These were not intended for publication, they were private exercises in Stoic philosophy, in which Aurelius wrestled with questions of virtue, mortality, duty, and self-discipline. You have power over your mind, not outside events, he wrote. Realize this, and you will find strength. 1. The Meditations represent a watershed moment in the history of journaling, the transformation of the practice from external documentation to internal exploration, from recording what happened to examining how one ought to live. 2. Historical evolution of journaling. 2.2 Medieval and Renaissance periods. During the Middle Ages, the practice of journal keeping became institutionalized within European monasteries. Monks maintained chronicles that recorded everything from weather patterns and agricultural cycles to Viking raids and political upheavals. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, maintained collectively by monastic communities from the 9th to the 12th century, functioned as a kind of medieval news feed, preserving a continuous record of English history. 8. These chronicles, while often focused on external events, occasionally revealed the personal perspectives and emotional responses of their authors, particularly in entries describing plague, famine, or warfare. The Renaissance witnessed an explosion of journal-keeping among scholars, artists, and explorers, reflecting the period's broader cultural emphasis on individualism, empirical observation, and the dignity of human experience. Leonardo da Vinci, 1452–1519, maintained notebooks that remain one of the most extraordinary legacies of the era. Over 7,000 pages of his observations, sketches, scientific inquiries, and philosophical reflections have survived, covering topics from the mechanics of flight and the flow of rivers to optics, architecture, and human anatomy. 10. Da Vinci's journals demonstrate a characteristically Renaissance integration of external observation and internal exploration. His notebooks were simultaneously laboratories for scientific investigation and mirrors for intellectual curiosity. The British Library's Codex Arundel, one of his surviving notebooks, reveals mechanics, the flow of rivers, astronomy, optics, architecture, and the flight of birds, demonstrating Leonardo's intense curiosity. 14. 2.3 Famous historical diaries. The 17th through 19th centuries produced some of the most celebrated personal journals in the Western canon, many of which have become invaluable historical documents precisely because of their unguarded intimacy. Samuel Pepys, 1633–1703, a British naval administrator and member of Parliament, kept a detailed diary from 1660 to 1669 that provides one of the most vivid accounts of English Restoration life. 10. Pepys's entries covered the Great Plague of London, the Great Fire of 1666, and countless observations about politics, theatre, and domestic life. His diary exemplifies how personal journaling, when conducted with candor and specificity, can preserve historical moments with an immediacy that formal historiography rarely achieves. The tradition of literary and reflective journaling gained particular prominence during the Romantic era of the late 18th and early 19th centuries, when writers embraced personal expression, emotional. 2. Historical evolution of journaling authenticity, and the sublime power of nature. Henry David Thoreau, 1817–1862, maintained extensive journals that formed the raw material for his published works, including Walden. His process followed a distinctive trajectory. Field notes became journal entries, which were transformed into lectures, then essays, and eventually books. 15. Virginia Woolf, 1882–1941, used her journals to process creativity, mental health struggles, and the experience of being a woman writer in a patriarchal literary culture. "The only way I keep afloat is by working," she wrote. "Directly I stop working I feel that I am sinking down. 15. And Frank's diary, written between 1942 and 1944 while she and her family hid from Nazi persecution in Amsterdam, stands as perhaps the most widely read personal journal in history. Translated into over 70 languages, the diary of a young girl preserves not only the historical reality of the Holocaust but also the universal emotional landscape of adolescence, hope, fear, longing, and the stubborn belief in human goodness despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. 14. It's really a wonder that I haven't dropped all my ideals, because they seem so absurd and impossible to carry out, she wrote. Yet I keep them, because in spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. 15. 2. For the rise of therapeutic writing, the 20th century witnessed a gradual but significant shift in how journaling was understood and practiced, particularly within clinical and psychological contexts. The emergence of psychoanalysis, with its emphasis on bringing unconscious material into conscious awareness through free association, created fertile theoretical ground for the therapeutic application of written expression. The gradual destigmatization of mental health concerns, combined with the humanistic psychology movement's focus on self-actualization and personal growth, positioned reflective writing as a legitimate tool for psychological development rather than merely a literary pastime. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, researchers in health psychology began systematically investigating whether writing about emotionally significant experiences could produce measurable health benefits. This line of inquiry, which would eventually crystallize into what is now known as the expressive writing paradigm, represented a pivotal moment in the history of journaling, the transition from a cultural and literary practice to an empirically validated therapeutic intervention. 3. Clinical findings and therapeutic importance. 3. Clinical findings and therapeutic importance. 3.1 The Pennebaker paradigm and foundational research. The modern scientific investigation of therapeutic writing is inseparable from the pioneering work of Dr. James W. Pennebaker at the University of Texas at Austin. In the fall of 1983, Pennebaker and his graduate student Sandra Beal conducted the first expressive writing experiment, randomly assigning students to write about either the most traumatic experience of their lives or superficial topics for 15 minutes on 4 consecutive days. 9. The results were striking. Participants in the trauma writing condition visited the student health center at approximately half the rate of control participants over the subsequent 6 months. 3. 9. This single study opened a research avenue that has now generated over 400 empirical investigations. A subsequent landmark study by Pennebaker, Kiecolt-Glaser, and Glaser, 1988, extended these findings by demonstrating that expressive writing was associated not only with reduced healthcare utilization but also with measurable changes in immune function. 9. Participants who wrote about emotional topics showed increased lymphocyte proliferation and altered patterns of antibody response, providing biological evidence that the act of putting traumatic experiences into words could influence physiological processes relevant to health and disease. Pennebaker's original protocol, writing about emotionally difficult experiences for 20 minutes over 4 consecutive days, has become the standard expressive writing paradigm, though researchers have since explored numerous variations in duration, frequency, topic specificity, and delivery format. 3. The simplicity of the intervention, combined with its minimal cost and ease of administration, has made it an attractive target for replication and extension across diverse populations and settings. 3.2 Meta-Analytic Evidence. The cumulative evidence for the efficacy of expressive writing has been systematically evaluated through multiple meta-analyses over the past 3 decades, providing a robust quantitative foundation for understanding its effects. The first major meta-analysis, conducted by Joshua Smith, 1998, and based on 13 studies with healthy participants, found a significant overall benefit with a 3. Clinical findings and therapeutic importance. Weighted mean effect size of D equals 0.47, R equals 0.23, P less than 0.0001, 5, 13. Smith noted that this effect size is comparable to or larger than those produced by other psychological interventions, many of which are considerably more time-consuming and expensive. The highest significant effect sizes were observed for psychological outcomes, D equals 0.66, and physiological outcomes, D equals 0.68, with somewhat smaller but still significant effects for health, D equals 0.42, and general functioning outcomes, D equals 0.33, 5. Table 1, Major Meta-Analyses on Expressive Writing Efficacy. Meta-analysis. Year studies, K, Population Key Effect Size. Smith 13 Healthy adults, D equals 0.47, overall, Frisina, Borod and Lepore 9. Clinical populations, D equals 0.19, health outcomes, Frateroli 146 mixed, R equals 0.075, overall, Reinhold et al. 39 healthy adults with stress small moderate effects, session-dependent Pavlasic et al. 21 trauma/PTSD small overall effect for PTSD Sohal et al. 20 mental illness 5% average reduction in symptoms for clinical populations, Frisina, Borod, and Lepore, 2004. Conducted a meta-analysis of 9 expressive writing studies and found a significant benefit for health outcomes, D equals 0.19, P less than 0.05, with stronger effects for physical health outcomes in medically ill populations, D equals 0.21, P equals 0.01, than for psychological health outcomes in psychiatric populations, D equals 0.07, P equals 0.17, 3, 13. The authors suggested that the smaller effect sizes in clinical samples may reflect heterogeneity in participant characteristics and the complexity of psychiatric conditions. More recently, Sohal and colleagues, 2022, conducted a meta-analysis of 20 journaling intervention studies and found an average statistically significant 5% reduction in patient scores on mental health measures compared with control groups, with greater benefits observed for anxiety and PTSD symptoms than for depression. 3. Clinical findings and therapeutic importance. 3.3 Mechanisms of action. Understanding why expressive writing produces health benefits has been a central focus of research since Pennebaker's initial discoveries. Several complementary mechanisms have been proposed and empirically investigated. The inhibition theory posits that actively inhibiting thoughts and feelings about traumatic experiences requires physiological effort, and that the act of disclosure releases this inhibition, thereby reducing chronic physiological arousal and its associated health costs. 3. Consistent with this theory, Sloan and Marks, 2004, found that participants in disclosure conditions exhibited elevated cortisol levels during their first writing session, followed by decreases in subsequent sessions, and that the initial cortisol elevation predicted improved psychological health at follow-up. 5. The cognitive processing model emphasizes that translating emotional experiences into written language requires the construction of a coherent narrative, which in turn facilitates the integration of traumatic memories into one's broader autobiographical understanding. 4. Research by Ulrich and Lutgendorf, 2002, demonstrated that cognitive processing in writing led to greater health benefits than simple emotional venting, suggesting that the meaning-making aspect of journaling is central to its therapeutic effect. 1. This finding aligns with broader literature on narrative identity and the role of coherent self-narratives in psychological well-being. Emotional catharsis and exposure-based mechanisms have also received empirical support. The repeated, structured confrontation with emotionally significant material during expressive writing sessions may function similarly to exposure therapy in clinical contexts, gradually reducing the emotional intensity of traumatic memories through habituation. 5. Smith, Hockemeyer, and Tulloch, 2008, found that individuals diagnosed with PTSD showed decreases in cortisol levels during trauma-related imaginal exposure 3 months after expressive writing, along with increases in post-traumatic growth, hope for the future, personal strength, and appreciation for life. 5. 3.4 Applications for specific conditions. The therapeutic applications of journaling extend across a wide spectrum of psychological and physical health concerns. For anxiety and depression, expressive writing has demonstrated consistent benefits, though effect sizes vary considerably across studies. Niles and colleagues, 2014, found that expressive writing reduced anxiety symptoms over 6 months in patients with 4. Common patterns, tactics, and techniques. Generalized anxiety disorder, 18. However, Reinhold and colleagues, 2018, meta-analysis of 39 randomized controlled trials found that while expressive writing produced short-term mood improvements, it did not yield significant long-term effects on depressive symptoms in physically healthy adults with varying degrees of stress, particularly when delivered as brief, self-directed intervention. 3. For trauma and PTSD, the evidence is particularly robust. Multiple meta-analyses have demonstrated small to moderately sized beneficial effects of expressive writing in improving PTSD symptoms. 3. A meta-analysis by Van Emmerich, Rienges, and Campius, 2012, found significant and substantial short-term reductions in post-traumatic stress and depressive symptoms, with no difference in efficacy between writing therapy and trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. 3. Pavlasek and colleagues, 2019, provided additional nuance, finding that expressive writing produced a small overall effect size for post-traumatic stress but negligible to small effects for post-traumatic growth and quality of life. 3. Beyond psychological outcomes, journaling has been associated with improvements in immune function, reduced blood pressure, improved lung function in asthma patients, and better disease management in chronic conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis and HIV/AIDS. 3. 4. Behavioral outcomes have also been documented. Students who write about emotional topics show improvements in grades, laid-off professionals find new employment more quickly, and university staff demonstrate reduced absenteeism following expressive writing interventions. 5. 4. Common patterns, tactics, and techniques. The diversity of journaling methods reflects the multiplicity of human needs that the practice serves. Understanding the distinct purposes and procedures of each approach enables practitioners to select methods aligned with their specific goals, whether those involve emotional processing, productivity enhancement, creative stimulation, or spiritual development. Stream of consciousness writing, popularized by psychologist William James and later championed by Julia Cameron, involves writing continuously without stopping, editing, or censoring for a predetermined period, typically 10 to 30 minutes. 17. Neuroimaging studies indicate that this unfiltered writing activates the brain's default mode network, often leading to unexpected insights and creative breakthroughs. The technique is particularly valuable for overcoming writers' 4. Common patterns, tactics, and techniques. Block, accessing subconscious material, and clearing mental clutter. The only rule is to keep the pen moving. If the writer becomes stuck, they simply write "I don't know what to write" until new thoughts emerge. Gratitude journaling, rooted in positive psychology research, involves the regular documentation of things for which one feels grateful. Emmons and McCullough, 2003, foundational research demonstrated that gratitude journaling improved well-being by 25% and increased exercise frequency among participants. 18. The practice can be as simple as listing 3 things daily or as elaborate as writing detailed reflections on specific sources of gratitude. The 5-minute journal format splits practice between morning, 3 gratitudes, 3 intentions, 1 affirmation, and evening, 3 highlights, 1 thing to improve, making it accessible even for busy individuals. 18. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, journaling applies structured techniques from clinical psychology to identify, challenge, and reframe maladaptive thought patterns. Practitioners record activating events, automatic thoughts, emotional responses, and alternative interpretations, creating a written record that facilitates the recognition of cognitive distortions such as catastrophizing, all-or-nothing thinking, and emotional reasoning. 17. Research demonstrates that questioning negative thoughts through written exercises can reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression, making CBT journaling a valuable adjunct to formal therapy. Shadow work journaling draws from Jungian psychology to explore the disowned or repressed aspects of the self, the shadow that contains traits, desires, and emotions that the conscious mind finds unacceptable. Through prompts that invite examination of projection, resentment, and hidden desires, practitioners develop a more integrated and authentic self-concept. 18. This advanced technique requires psychological readiness and is often most beneficial when supported by therapeutic guidance. 5. Fads and popular systems through history. Table 2. Comparison of major journaling techniques. Method. Primary goal. Time required. Difficulty. Evidence-based. Stream of consciousness. Mental clarity, creativity. 10 to 30-minute. Easy. Strong, neuroimaging, Pennebaker. Gratitude journaling. Mood improvement. 5-minute. Easy. Strong, Emmons and McCullough. CBT journaling. Thought restructuring. 10 to 15-minute. Medium. Strong, clinical trials. Morning pages. Creative unblocking. 30 to 45-minute. Easy. Moderate, practitioner reports. Bullet journaling. Organization, productivity. 10 to 15-minute. Medium. Limited, user testimonials. Shadow work. Self-integration. 15 to 20 minutes. Advanced emerging, Jungian theory. 1 line a day. Consistency, memory. 1 to 2-minute. Easy. Limited across all methods. Certain tactical principles enhance effectiveness. Consistency matters more than duration. Research suggests that 15 to 20 minutes of expressive writing produces measurable benefits, but even 1 to 5 minutes daily is superior to 30 minutes once per week. 18. Specificity in writing, detailed descriptions of events, emotions, and bodily sensations, produces greater benefits than vague generalizations. Emotional depth, including the honest exploration of painful or uncomfortable feelings, is associated with larger health improvements than purely factual recording. Privacy is essential. Knowing that entries will not be read by others enables the radical honesty that drives therapeutic benefit. Finally, regular review of past entries can reveal patterns, track progress, and deepen self-understanding over time. 5. Fads and popular systems through history. 5.1 The bullet journal method. The bullet journal, Bujo, method, created by Brooklyn-based designer-writer Carroll, represents one of the most influential organizational systems to emerge in the 21st century. Carroll developed 5. Fads and popular systems through history. The method in the late 1990s while seeking a simple personal organization system to help him move past his learning disabilities after being diagnosed with attention deficit disorder as a child. 26. By the time he graduated from college, he had refined the method and began sharing it online in 2013. The system attracted significant attention on social media, earning $80,000 in Kickstarter funding and becoming the subject of over 3 million Instagram posts by December 2018. 26. At its core, the bullet journal method combines elements of mindfulness, productivity, and self-discovery around the central principle of intentionality. 21. The system employs a rapid logging framework using specific bullet symbols, tasks, events, notes, organized into daily, monthly, and future logs, supplemented by customizable collections for tracking habits, goals, and projects. Unlike rigid pre-printed planners, the bullet journal is designed to be continuously evolving, expanding, and contracting based on the user's changing needs. 25. The method's strengths lie in its flexibility, the mindfulness component built into daily review, and the way it externalizes cognitive load, freeing mental resources for creative and meaningful work. Critics, however, note that the elaborate aesthetic presentations popularized on social media, intricate hand lettering, elaborate spreads, and artistic embellishments, can create barriers to entry and shift focus from substance to style. Carroll himself has emphasized that the bullet journal method is centered on one key idea: intentionality, not artistic perfection. 21. 5.2 The Artist's Way and Morning Pages. In 1992, Julia Cameron published The Artist's Way, a book that would sell over 5 million copies and be translated into more than 40 languages. 16. At its heart was Morning Pages, 3 handwritten pages of stream of consciousness writing completed first thing every morning, before coffee, before email, before the day's demands begin. There is no wrong way to do morning pages, they are not high art, Cameron writes. They are not even writing. They are about anything and everything that crosses your mind, and they are for your eyes only. 16. Cameron insists on longhand writing because velocity is the enemy. 16. The slower pace of handwriting creates a truer connection to one's emotional life than typing allows. The timing is equally deliberate. Writing in the early morning catches the practitioner before our ego is awake, before its defenses are in place. 16. The practice takes 30 to 45 minutes daily, and Cameron recommends not rereading entries for at least 8 weeks to prevent writing for an audience. 5. Fads and popular systems through history. Morning pages function as what Cameron calls taking out the mental trash, a daily clearing that provokes, clarifies, comforts, and prioritizes the day ahead. 23. 5.3 Other notable systems. The landscape of structured journaling systems includes numerous other approaches, each reflecting the cultural needs of its era. Wreck This Journal, created by Carrie Smith, subverted traditional journaling by instructing users to destroy, deface, and experiment with the journal itself, an antidote to perfectionism that resonated powerfully in an age of curated social media personas. The Hobonikai Techo, a Japanese daily planner introduced in 2001, gained a devoted global following through its minimalist design, high-quality paper, Tomo River, and the philosophy of recording 1 page per day as a life document. The 5-minute journal, popularized by Intelligent Change, packaged gratitude and intention setting into a structured, low-friction format marketed heavily to productivity-oriented professionals. Table 3. Evolution of popular journaling systems. System creator year. Core philosophy. Cultural context. Morning pages. Julia Cameron. Creative recovery through uncensored writing. Post-Reagan. Creative unblocking. Bullet journal writer Carol. Intentional productivity through flexible logging. Digital overwhelm, ADHD awareness. Wreck This Journal. Carrie Smith. Creative destruction, anti-perfectionism. Social media curation. Anxiety. Hobonikai Techo Shigsado Itoi. Daily life documentation as art. Japanese minimalism, craftsmanship. 5-minute journal. Intelligent Change. Gratitude plus intention in minimal time. Startup culture, biohacking. Each of these systems reflects a particular cultural moment and set of anxieties. Morning pages emerged during a period of widespread creative blockage in post-industrial economies. The bullet journal responded to the cognitive overload of digital productivity culture. Wreck This Journal channeled rebellion against the pressure to present a flawless self. Understanding these contexts helps explain why certain systems achieve widespread adoption at particular historical junctures. 6. What is the best method? Evidence-based recommendations and why their staying power depends on their ability to address enduring human needs rather than transient trends. 6. What is the best method? Evidence-based recommendations. The question of which journaling method is best cannot be answered without first clarifying the goal. The evidence suggests that different methods produce optimal outcomes for different objectives, and that the most effective journaling practice is one tailored to the individual's current needs, psychological readiness, and capacity for consistency. For mental health and emotional processing, the strongest evidence supports expressive writing in the Pennebaker tradition, writing about emotionally significant experiences for 15 to 20 minutes across multiple sessions. 3. This approach is most beneficial when conducted with sufficient emotional depth and specificity. CBT-based journaling offers additional structure for those working with specific cognitive distortions, while gratitude journaling provides an evidence-based entry point for individuals primarily seeking mood improvement. 18. For creativity and creative blocks, morning pages remain the most widely recommended practice, supported by decades of practitioner testimonials and the theoretical alignment between stream of consciousness writing and creative unblocking. 16. The practice of filling 3 pages without censorship bypasses the inner critic that Cameron identifies as the primary obstacle to creative expression. For productivity and organization, the bullet journal method offers a flexible, customizable framework that integrates task management with reflective practice. 21. Its strength lies in the regular review process, the daily migration of tasks, and the monthly reflection on priorities, which builds mindfulness into productivity. For trauma processing, expressive writing shows promising results, but with important caveats. Research suggests that timing matters significantly. Writing about traumatic events too soon after they occur may intensify distress rather than relieve it. 27. Many clinicians recommend waiting several weeks to months before processing traumatic events through writing, allowing the nervous. 7. The commercial market for journaling system to stabilize first. For individuals with PTSD, working with a trained therapist is strongly recommended, as unsupervised writing can trigger retraumatization, flooding, or flashbacks. 27. Practical guidelines for beginners. 1. Start with the lowest friction method that addresses your primary goal. 2. Commit to 7 to 14 days of consistent practice before evaluating effectiveness. 3. Prioritize honesty over eloquence. The journal is for process, not product. 4. Ensure absolute privacy to enable genuine self-disclosure. 5. If a method increases distress over multiple sessions, pause and consult a professional. 6. For advanced practitioners, experiment with combining methods, e.g., morning pages for clearing, plus evening gratitude for integration. Common pitfalls include perfectionism, treating the journal as a performance rather than a process, inconsistency, abandoning the practice before benefits accrue, rumination, repeating the same grievances without gaining new perspective, and avoidance, using the journal to vent without engaging in deeper processing. 27. Recognizing these patterns is essential for maintaining a healthy and beneficial practice. True processing typically brings moments of insight, gradual emotional shifts, or at minimum a sense of having been heard, even if only by oneself. 7. The commercial market for journaling. The journaling industry has grown into a substantial commercial ecosystem encompassing physical notebooks, digital applications, specialized journals with pre-printed prompts, subscription boxes, stationery accessories, and educational courses. This market represents a fascinating intersection of wellness culture, productivity optimization, and the enduring appeal of analog tools in an increasingly digital world. The digital journal app market alone was valued at approximately $5.54 billion in 2024 and is projected to reach $15.14 billion by 2035, exhibiting a compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of 9.57%. 2. Major players include Day One, Journey, Penzu, Diaro, Memento, and Reflectly, each competing on features such as cross-platform compatibility, AI-powered insights, mood tracking, data encryption, and multimedia integration. The Diaries and Planners market, encompassing physical products, was valued at $5.82 billion in 2025 and is expected to reach $8.8 billion by 2033, growing at a CAGR of 5.29%. 6. 8. Teaching Journaling. Table 4. Journaling Market Overview by Segment. Market Segment 2024/2025 Value. Projected Value. CAGR. Digital Journal Apps $5.54 billion 2024, $15.14 billion 2035, 9.57%. Diaries and Planners, Physical, $5.82 billion 2025, $8.8 billion 2033, 5.29%. Journal Apps, Broader Category, $94 billion 2024, $154 billion 2032, 6.4%. Key industry players shaping the physical planner landscape include Nipcraft, Collins Debden, Kiki.K, FLB Group, Quo Vadis, Hachette, Paperblanks, Acco Brands, Blue Sky, and TF Publishing. 6. Marketing strategies increasingly emphasize sustainability, eco-friendly materials, refillable designs, personalization, custom layouts, monogramming, and hybrid analog-digital integration, QR codes linking physical entries to companion apps. The planner culture phenomenon, fueled by social media communities, influencer partnerships, and workshop-based brand engagement, has transformed diaries and planners from utilitarian office supplies into lifestyle goods and identity markers. 6. This commercialization carries both benefits and risks. On one hand, the proliferation of beautifully designed journals, research-backed prompts, and feature-rich applications has lowered barriers to entry and introduced millions of people to reflective writing practices they might otherwise never have discovered. On the other hand, the commodification of journaling can shift focus from authentic self-exploration to consumption and performance. The most expensive notebook or most sophisticated app cannot substitute for the willingness to engage honestly with one's own experience. The tension between authentic practice and commercialization remains an ongoing dynamic within the journaling community. 8. Teaching journaling effectively requires attention to developmental appropriateness, sensitivity to resistance, and awareness of the ethical dimensions of inviting self-disclosure. Whether conducted in schools, therapeutic settings, workplaces, or coaching relationships, the instruction of reflective writing demands more than simply telling participants to write about their feelings. 8. Teaching journaling for children aged 6 to 8. Journaling should emphasize prompt-based approaches that scaffold the transition from oral to written expression. 24. Simple prompts such as, "Today I felt happy when," or "One thing I noticed today was," provide structure while encouraging emotional awareness. Drawing can be integrated as a legitimate form of journal expression for children whose writing skills are still developing. For tweens aged 9 to 13, reflective writing can incorporate more sophisticated structures such as the 3-2-1 method, 3 gratitudes, 2 excitements, 1 goal, while gradually introducing free writing opportunities. 24. Adolescents and adults can engage with the full spectrum of journaling methods, though the approach should be calibrated to the individual's psychological readiness and the context of instruction. In therapeutic settings, collaborative journaling, where therapist and client co-create journal notes, has shown promise for enhancing engagement and transparency, though research indicates that therapists often require additional training and support to implement this approach effectively. 34. In workplace settings, journaling is increasingly incorporated into leadership development, stress management, and wellness programs, typically using structured formats that respect professional boundaries while encouraging authentic reflection. Overcoming resistance is a common challenge in teaching journaling. Common barriers include fear of judgment, even from oneself, perfectionism, lack of time, and the discomfort of confronting difficult emotions. Effective instructors address these barriers by emphasizing privacy, explicitly devaluing writing quality as a criterion for success, starting with very brief exercises, even 1 minute, and normalizing the discomfort that often accompanies initial engagement. The instruction to write the worst journal entry ever can paradoxically liberate perfectionists to begin. Ethical considerations include respecting cultural differences in attitudes toward emotional expression and self-disclosure, maintaining appropriate boundaries when journals are shared in educational or therapeutic contexts, and recognizing when journaling may be contraindicated. Cultural sensitivity is particularly important. Individualistic frameworks that emphasize personal emotional expression may not align with collectivist cultural values that prioritize group harmony over individual disclosure. 29. 9. Conclusion and future directions. 9. Conclusion and future directions. This review has traced journaling from its origins in ancient Mesopotamian record-keeping through its evolution as a therapeutic intervention validated by over 3 decades of empirical research. The evidence overwhelmingly supports the conclusion that reflective writing, particularly expressive writing about emotionally significant experiences, produces measurable benefits for psychological well-being, physical health, and cognitive functioning. Effect sizes, while modest in absolute terms, are comparable to those of other psychological interventions and are achieved with minimal cost, training, or infrastructure. The practice remains one of the most democratic tools for self-improvement available. Yet the simplicity of journaling is deceptive. The research reviewed here reveals significant nuance in how, when, and for whom different journaling approaches are most effective. Expressive writing is not universally beneficial. It can intensify distress when undertaken too soon after trauma, can reinforce rumination when practiced without sufficient depth or structure, and is not a substitute for professional mental health care in cases of severe depression, active suicidal ideation, or complex PTSD. 27. The best method depends on the practitioner's goals, psychological readiness, and capacity for consistency. The most effective approach is often not a single method but a personalized combination of techniques adapted over time. Looking forward, several developments promise to reshape the journaling landscape. The integration of artificial intelligence into journaling applications represents the most significant technological frontier. Current AI-powered features include emotional pattern analysis, sentiment tracking, guided prompts based on psychological research, and semantic search across years of entries. 28. A 2024 user survey found that over 70% of digital journal users report discussing topics with their apps that they would never broach with a friend or therapist. 28. Suggesting that AI-assisted journaling may unlock levels of honesty that traditional social contexts cannot. However, important questions remain about data privacy, algorithmic bias, and the risk of outsourcing self-discovery to automated systems. As one researcher noted, algorithms are mirrors, not oracles. 28. The meaning constructed from AI-generated insights remains fundamentally human work. The debate between analog and digital journaling will likely persist, with the most thoughtful practitioners advocating for a hybrid approach that leverages the unique strengths of each medium. References handwriting offers tactile engagement, freedom from digital distraction, and the cognitive benefits of slower processing. Digital platforms offer searchability, pattern analysis, accessibility, and integration with other wellness tools. 32. Emerging research on the neuropsychological differences between handwritten and typed expression may eventually provide clearer guidance on when each modality is optimal. Future research priorities include larger randomized controlled trials with diverse populations, investigation of optimal dosing and timing parameters, exploration of cultural adaptations, and rigorous evaluation of AI-assisted journaling outcomes. The field would also benefit from greater attention to the mechanisms that differentiate helpful processing from harmful rumination, and from the development of reliable tools for identifying when journaling alone is insufficient and professional intervention is warranted. What remains constant across every era, technology, and methodological variation is the fundamental human need that journaling serves: the need to witness one's own life, to make meaning from experience, and to construct a coherent narrative of selfhood. Whether pressed into clay, scratched on papyrus, bound in leather, or encrypted in the cloud, the act of recording our inner lives remains an irreducibly human practice, one that science continues to validate and technology continues to transform, but that neither can fully replace. The enduring power of journaling lies not in the medium but in the intention, the decision, repeated daily, to turn inward with honesty and to emerge with understanding. References 1. My Life Note AI. 2026, Journal versus Diary, Key Differences Explained. My Life Note blog. 2. Market Research Future. 2026, Digital Journal Apps Market Size, Growth Drivers 2035. MRFR/ICT/27485HCR. 3. U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. ND. Therapeutic Journaling, Whole Health Library. VA Office of Patient-Centered Care. 4. University of Wisconsin Integrative Health. ND. Therapeutic Journaling. Department of Family Medicine and Community Health. 5. Pennebaker, J.W., and Chung, C.K., 2011. Expressive Writing, Connections to Physical and Mental Health. In H. S. Friedman, ed., Oxford Handbook of Health Psychology, pages 417 to 437. Oxford University Press. 6. Market Mind Partners. 2025, Diaries and Planners Market Size, Overview 2025 to 2033. References 7. Niles, A.N., Haltom, K.E., Mulvena, C.M., Lieberman, M.D., and Stanton, A.L., 2014. Randomized Controlled Trial of Expressive Writing for Psychological and Physical Health Among Individuals with Generalized Anxiety Disorder. Journal of Clinical Psychology, 70, 4, 326 to 338. 8. WriteDiary.com. 2025, The Amazing Journey of Journaling, From Ancient Clay Tablets to Modern Apps. 9. Pennebaker, J.W., 2018. Expressive Writing in Psychological Science. APS Observer, 31. 10. The Ink Pot. 2024, Notebook Legends, Meeting History's Greatest Journal Keepers. 11. Day 1 App, 2023. What is a journal? Why you should start one today. 12. Verified Market Research. 2025, Journal App Market Size and Forecast. 13. Bakey, K.A., and Wilhelm, K., 2005. Emotional and Physical Health Benefits of Expressive Writing. Advances in Psychiatric Treatment, 11, 5, 338-346. 14. The Chief Storyteller. 2023, 11 Storytelling Reflections on 2022. 15. Which Way How. 2024, Which Way is the Best, and How, to Journal. 16. My Life Note AI. 2026, Morning Pages, The Complete Guide to Julia Cameron's Life-Changing Practice. 17. Reflection.app. 2026, 10 Proven Journaling Techniques plus 50 Journal Prompts for Self-Discovery. 18. My Life Note AI. 2025, The 9 Most Popular Journaling Methods in 2026. 19. 750 Words. ND. Practice writing every day. 750words.com. 20. Quartz. 2022, How Writing 750 Words a Day Could Change Your Life. 21. Bullet Journal. 2023, What is the Bullet Journal Method? 22. Michael D. Pollock. 2016, How 750words.com Reinvigorated My Morning Pages Writing Practice. 23. Urban Wild Studio. 2024, The Benefits of Writing Morning Pages, from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. 24. Emra Health. 2025, The Best Guide to Journaling for Kids, Boost Creativity and Confidence. 25. Workflowy Blog. 2021, Writer Carol, a Q&A with the creator of Bullet Journaling. 26. Wikipedia. 2019, Bullet Journal. 27. ReachLink. 2026, Therapeutic Writing versus Journaling, which helps more? 28. MirrorMind AI. 2025, Self-Reflection Journal App versus You, Who Really Knows Your Mind? 29. MDPI Healthcare. 2024, Beyond Pharmacology, a narrative review of alternative therapies for anxiety disorders. Healthcare, 12, 9, 216. 30. Gazadinda, R., Putri, G.W., and Maulana, H., 2023. Reducing Loneliness in Undergraduate Students Through Journaling. Bulletin of Counseling and Psychotherapy, 5, 1, 65-66. 31. Reflection.app. 2026, The Best Journaling Apps of 2026. 32. My Life Note AI. 2025, How to Find Your Best Self-Journal for Intentional Growth. References 33. Springer. 2024, Side Effects in Psychodynamic and Cognitive Behavior Therapy. Journal of Contemporary Psychotherapy. 34. Wiley. 2024, Collaboration with Clients to Create Journal Notes, a Mixed Methods Evaluation. Counseling and Psychotherapy Research.